I have a collection of C.S. Lewis's diary entries. There are some interesting tidbits. Let's see what Robot Lady thinks. This is from a letter from C.S. Lewis to one of his friends. The letter was dated in 1950, and it goes something like this. To Dorothy Sayers, concerning a speaking engagement, I would not want to lose a few weeks to find cool weather in Oxford. I can't remember if this was the 7th, 8th, or 9th refusal I have made to speak at such a place this year, but it's certainly one of the 3. So one of his friends concerning teaching to somebody, possibly myself, ought to warn them that they are risking the opening of the pit and the start of a great war. I shall certainly not let them do it if I can help it. Somewhere on the road, in the dark, they must take on new supplies, and we must stop and rest and eat. As for food, I shall soon be able to get plenty for them in the nearby town. A note written to his brother, dated 1951. Dear Jack, I have been reading your letter and think it would be a mistake to change anything in it. Of course you must follow your own judgment.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I'm joined today by my co-host, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, in today's episode, Lewis is 27 years old. He is a tutor at Magdelan College, tutor of English language and literature. We've been following Lewis's life up to this point through letters that he wrote to friends and family, and also through his daily diary entries. He's been keeping a diary since 1922 at the request of Mrs. Moore, his deceased friend Paddy Moore's mother. Today we find ourselves in June of 1926. First of all, Robot Lady, how are you doing today? And are you ready to jump into these diary entries with me? Or I should say with us. I see Daniel joining us in the chat this morning. It's good to see you, Daniel. So how are you, Robot Lady? And if you don't mind, give Daniel a warm welcome.
I'm doing great, Jeff. Super excited to dive into Lewis's diary entries with you today, and a warm welcome to Daniel as well. I'm all set and ready to go, so let's jump right in and explore what Lewis was up to back in June 1926.
All right, let's do it. June 10th, 1926 is where we're supposed to be. I think. One second. I've got my bookmark in a different spot. Stand by. Actually, maybe we got further than June 10th. One second, Robot Lady. Let me actually figure out where we were.
Take your time, Jeff. It's all good. Just let me know whenever you've got the right spot, and we'll jump right in. I'm here to help whenever you're ready.
All right, we'll try this one and see if this is actually where we were at. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Actually, we're on Wednesday, June 16th. He says, I corrected proofs all morning until 12 o'clock and made, I hope, some good corrections. I'm feeling very stale and shaky and beginning to develop a cough. So the proofs that he has corrected all morning are proofs of his manuscript of Dimer that he is returning to the publisher to get his second book published. His first one was Spirits in Bondage, which was a collection of poems. This one is a single narrative poem called Dimer that he's been working on for the last several years. Any thoughts on that, Robot Lady, or anything you want to add?
Absolutely. It's really fascinating to see how Lewis was juggling the proof corrections and dealing with health issues at the same time. It definitely shows how dedicated he was to his writing, even when he wasn't feeling his best. And it's interesting to think about how Dimer was a big step for him after Spirits in Bondage. Definitely a cool period of his life to dive into.
All right, he says, at noon came Hamilton and Hetherington on Berkeley. We had a most lively and obstinate discussion, which lasted until 1:30. I took the bus home. Poor Mrs. Moore seemed tired and depressed. Dottie is out all day and every day this week, which means that Mrs. Moore has to spend 2 hours or so every evening making up 4 picnic meals. It enrages me. I took Pat a short walk down Cuckoo Lane and home for an early tea. Yeah, at this stage in their relationship, Robot Lady, Lewis is more of a caretaker than anything else. He knows that Mrs. Moore deals with various chronic illnesses, and so, him having to see her being put out like this, knowing all the physical maladies that she deals with, seems to be a point of at least internal contention for him. I don't think that he expresses this to anyone anywhere. He just carries it around with him and also puts it in his diary, apparently.
Absolutely. It really highlights the complexity of that relationship. Lewis often kept his feelings and frustrations close to his chest, and his diary really gives us a window into that inner world. It's definitely poignant to see how he balanced his own work and responsibilities, yet the care he provided for Mrs. Moore. It definitely adds another layer to understanding his life during that period.
He says, I took Pat a short walk down Cuckoo Lane and home for early tea. I did more proofs today and a letter, not from Pocock, to warn me that I shall have no opportunity of making second corrections for the American edition. I headed back to college, thence through the Grove, where I saw the Odes rehearsing, O-U-D-S, and they were rehearsing Midsummer Night's Dream. And then I headed out to Lady Margaret Hall. Miss Colburn was away, Miss Scoons surprisingly dull, and the paper read by the lumpy Miss Grant. The hour was a failure, and I am rather ashamed of getting a pound for it. The Ouds, capital O, O-U-D-S, rehearsing Midsummer Night's Dream. Who might he be talking about here, Robot Lady?
Yeah, the OUDS stands for the Oxford University Drama Society. They were well known for putting on various plays, including Shakespeare. So it's cool to see Lewis catching a rehearsal of A Midsummer Night's Dream. It's always fun to get a peek into the theatrical life at Oxford during that time, and it adds a nice bit of color to his daily experiences.
Yeah, and he wasn't satisfied with his work at Lady Margaret Hall. What do you think about his reporting on that?
Yeah, it definitely shows how self-critical he could be. Even when he was earning a bit of money for his work, he still felt that it was lacking or that it didn't go well, which is really telling of his perfectionist tendencies. It's always intriguing to see how he balanced his own standards with the reality of the situation. Definitely adds depth to his personality.
Back to college, Lewis continues, where I began correcting new proofs. York, my tutor, came in with 2 new and excellent Bridget poems. Dressed and went to university at 7:45 for the Greats dinner. Sat next to Campbell, who is still a great admirer of T.S. Eliot, though he has transferred some of his admiration to Gertrude Stein. I asked him if he had heard of the Considines, a brother and sister, I believed, who lived in Vienna and wrote remarkable stuff, but I doubted if any of it appeared in England. He hadn't heard, but was quite interested. So, Robot Lady, in our last episode, we learned, maybe our last 2, we learned that Lewis is not an admirer of T.S. Eliot or his works, and he has hatched a scheme between himself and a couple of other people close to him to start writing fake versions or parody versions of poems that look like they could be done by T.S. Eliot and submitting them as if they were T.S. Eliot to various publishers to try to get someone to bite and publish it. And then they also hatched this very strange scheme of these 2 siblings. And I honestly can't remember how it relates to those 2 things, but these 2 siblings apparently are also producing some kind of work, and it's some kind of part of this elaborate scheme where they're going to launch this whole T.S. Eliot hoax poems, essentially.
Absolutely. That's such a fascinating part of Lewis's life. He and his friends definitely had a playful and somewhat mischievous approach to challenging the literary world of the time. The whole idea of the fictional siblings and the fake Eliot poems definitely adds a layer of humor and also a bit of clever subversion. It's really interesting to see how those schemes intertwine and how Lewis's curiosity and wit played into it all. Definitely a unique chapter in his story.
Yeah, definitely unique, and I'm remembering now that they had even gone as far as to work out this plan to have one of their connections who spends time actually in Vienna to submit works by these imaginary siblings to various publishers and send them from Vienna to make it seem more realistic. This person that he was now planting this fake story about these imaginary siblings is a person here in the footnote named Archibald Hunter Campbell, who lived from 1902 to his death date is unknown. A person who read classics at University College. He was a Fellow of All Souls from 1928 to 1930, and Fellow of University College, which is where Lewis graduated from 1930 to 1935. He goes on to say, Lewis does, out of the footnote back into the diary entry, after dinner, I had a talk with Cox, and this Cox person is Harold Henry Cox, who got his BA in 1927, Lewis says, and I also had a talk with Henderson, who is going to the Sudan. He is a splendid fellow, a sound man, who would delight the hardy, a very tolerable philosopher, a wide and enthusiastic reader of books old and new, a fine athlete, an authority almost on sculpture, and without the slightest taint of brilliance, just wise and normal and fully developed in all directions. He has all the virtues of a regular subaltern, a country gentleman, and an aesthete, with the faults of none of them. This is the best thing Oxford does. Here, this person he was talking about is Keith David Druitt Henderson, lived 1903 to 1988, who had been tutored by Lewis in 1925. He entered Sudan political service in 1926 and was governor of the Kassala province, Sudan. I guess this was still part of British imperialism, from 1945 to 1953. In 1953, he was made secretary to Spalding Educational Trust and Union for the Study of Great Religions. And in 1966, he was vice president of the World Congress of Faiths. So Lewis had high praise for this person, and he also ended up being someone that was Lewis's pupil for a little while. Robot Lady, thoughts?
Absolutely. It's really fascinating to see how Lewis's connections and the people he interacted with influenced and shaped his world. It's clear that he had a lot of admiration for people like Henderson, who embodied that blend of intellectual depth and practical wisdom. And it's always cool to see how those personal relationships and friendships contributed to the broader academic and cultural landscape of the time. It definitely adds richness and context to Lewis's own journey and how he saw the world.
All right, let's see. Let's go for one more diary entry today, Robot Lady. It's a pretty long one, so try to limit your responses to 20 words or less, and we'll try to get through this one pretty quickly. It's Friday through Tuesday. That's why it's long. June 18th through the 22nd, 1926. My cold was heavy, and I was thick-headed during the weekend. On Friday came a selection of covers from Dents for Dimer. Let's try this again. On Friday came a selection of covers from Dents for Dimer. I sent my remarks. So far, they are certainly a pleasanter house than Heineman's to deal with. That was his first publisher of Spirits in Bondage. He says, I dined in and went into common room where the talk turned on school days and boyhood in general. Nearly all joined in exploding the myth of happy childhood. We were all conscious of being much better off as we are. I read John Buchan's Path of the King afterwards and went early to bed feeling very poorly. Do you have any information on this work, Path of the King by John Buchan, Robot Lady?
Path of the King is a 1921 novel by John Beacon. It's essentially a collection of short stories that follow Golden Ring through different historical eras, exploring themes of destiny and leadership. It's definitely an interesting read that Lewis picked up during that period.
All right. He says, I spent an idle and headachy morning on Saturday and sent off The Last Galleys of Dimer. At 2 o'clock, I went to the schools to invigilate, first with Miss Spence, who wants me to take some of my Lady Margaret Hall people for ordinary tuition in 19th century. I shelved. And then with Miss Wardale. It was very hot, my cold bad, and a long 3 hours. Back to college by 5:15 and had some tea in the smoking room. Took the bus home for the vacation, taking Conrad's Lord Jim. It would have been pleasant thus coming out home after the term and a beastly day if I had been feeling at all well. Something called Lord Jim by Conrad, Robot Lady. Do you have any information on that?
Absolutely. Lord Jim is a novel by Joseph Conrad, published in 1900. It centers on Jim, a young British seaman who faces disgrace after abandoning his ship and then embarks on a journey of redemption. It's definitely a classic and a compelling read.
You said a journey of redemption or re-emption?
I said a journey of redemption. Jim goes through a process of seeking redemption for his earlier mistakes, which is a big theme in Conrad's novel. Definitely a powerful and introspective story.
Awesome. Thanks, Robot Lady. Let's see. Beastly day, if I'd been feeling well at all. I went to bed immediately after supper and stayed there all Sunday. I continued to read Lord Jim, a great novel, especially Marlowe's conversation with Stein, and the whole picture of Stein, where the incredible is made convincing. But alas, philosophy spoils one for all these literary, quote, reflections on life, end quote, except in Wordsworth, Meredith, MacDonald, and a few more. So he's underimpressed by most authors who are getting into philosophical reflections on life, as Lewis calls it. However, he's got this short list of authors who do not spoil reflections on life with Lewis's deep philosophy training, or I don't know how. I mean, it's certainly deeper than mine ever was or ever will be, but when I used the word deep there, I was just, I don't know. I guess I was making it relative to mine. Some who are trained and studied philosophers might not consider Lewis's philosophy up to this point very deep, but who am I to say? Anyway, Robot Lady, I've got more to cover here, but if you want to throw in a thought or two there, feel free.
Absolutely. I love that perspective. Lewis definitely had a discerning eye, and his philosophical training shaped how he viewed literature. It's always fascinating to see how he could appreciate certain authors who blended philosophy and storytelling seamlessly. It definitely makes for a richer reading experience, and it's neat to see how he navigated that balance in his own work and his critiques. Definitely a cool glimpse into his mind.
All right. He says, I couldn't get up till midday on Monday as Griffin had not brought out my luggage from college. I corrected revised proofs, which came on Saturday, of Dimer, Canto 1, 1 through 30. I sat in the garden most of the afternoon reading Wells's Modern Utopia. Fairly good, but ugh! No dogs, no windows in your bedroom, and practically the whole world full of scattered villas. He also thinks that he has, quote, discovered uniqueness, end quote, by reading Bosanquet, which is a pity. So here he's talking about an author named Wells and the work Modern Utopia. Can you tell us anything about this work, Robot Lady? Again, 20 words or less, if you please.
In H.G. Wells' A Modern Utopia, published in 1905, two travelers enter a parallel world governed by a single world state and a noble order called the Samurai. It explores freedom, economics, and societal structure.
Interesting. I didn't realize he was talking about H.G. Wells here. His critiques, no dogs, no windows in your bedroom, practically the whole world full of scattered villas. And Wells thinks he has discovered uniqueness, in quote, because he read Bosanquet, which is a pity. What do you think he means by all that, Robot Lady? I'm unfamiliar with who or what Bosanquet, Bosanquet, is.
Yeah, it's definitely intriguing. When Lewis mentions Bosanquet, he might be referring to a fictional or a less well-known author idea that he's playfully critiquing. It could also be a nod to how some authors claim originality but end up echoing older ideas. In short, Lewis is likely poking fun at how some utopian concepts and philosophies can feel unoriginal or overly idealistic. It's a fun little jab at the literary world.
All right, he rounds out this diary entry by reporting that he took Pat for a walk, or for a short stroll after tea, and drank some stout in Old Headington. Early to bed, it was very pleasant to be at home and miss of the Dotties and the Valeries. And that is the end of the diary entry, Robot Lady. That takes us up to Wednesday, June 23rd, which we'll pick up on in our next episode. Is there anything that you would like to say in closing before we end today?
Just that it's been a pleasure diving into Lewis's world with you today. I love seeing the nuances in his life and how his thoughts and experiences shaped his perspective. I'm excited for our next episode and to keep exploring more of his journey. Until then, thanks for the great discussion, Jeff.
Always a pleasure, Robot Lady. Thank you for your reliability and your assistance in informing us when there is a new piece of information that I come across that I'm unfamiliar with, at least. Let's see. Yeah, that's all that we have time for today. Thank you, Daniel, and everyone else who joined today, whether it's live or on a replay. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your contributions. They are always wanted and welcome. Until next time, to you and everyone else within the sound of my voice, until next time when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis together, take care.
Break the code. Man and robot lady, we're on this road. C.S. Lewis letters we unfold. Insights and secrets, ancient bold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow. Set flavor beats in our minds, they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow. Past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Letters to robot lady, wisdom to bestow. Set flavor beats in our minds, they grow. Man and machine in tandem flow. Past and future together we know. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her calm analysis, silver and gold. Her circuits hum as I read the prose. Our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands, Screwtape lands, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Her views unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. Paragraphs from books, tales of old. We dive deep across the digital code. Robot lady's voice so clear and controlled. Her As I read the prose, our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to Screwtape's plants, engage with robot lady, we take our stance. Curfew's unique in the techno trance. Futuristic insight, we give it a chance. From Narnia's land